History isn't just dusty old books and dates you had to memorize in school. It's a drama, full of high stakes, gambles, shocking twists, and decisions that could have easily gone the other way. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on 7 shocking decisions made by early U.S. presidents that didn't just shape their legacies, but forged the very nation we live in today. Stick around, because number 1 might just change how you see the Founding Fathers forever. Let's start with number 7. John Adams and the Alien and Sedition Acts. Imagine this. It's 1798. The country is young, fragile, and terrified of being dragged into a war with France. Public criticism of the government is rampant. So, what does President John Adams do? He signs a series of 4 laws that are, frankly, shocking. The Alien and Sedition Acts made it harder for immigrants to become citizens, allowed the president to imprison and deport non-citizens deemed dangerous. And here's the kicker. Made it illegal to make false statements that were critical of the federal government. Yes, you heard that right. It became a crime to criticize the president. Newspapers were shut down, editors were jailed. This was a direct challenge to the brand new First Amendment, while Adams believed he was protecting national security. It was a massive political gamble that cost him dearly. It sparked a national debate on free speech and states' rights that still echoes today and ultimately contributed to his defeat in the 1800 election. Coming in at number 6, we have Thomas Jefferson's Louisiana Purchase. Jefferson was a man of principle, famously believing in a small, limited federal government. He argued that the Constitution should be interpreted strictly. So, what happens when Napoleon offers to sell him a gigantic chunk of land? A territory so vast it would literally double the size of the United States overnight. The problem was, the Constitution said absolutely nothing about the president being able to buy foreign land. Jefferson was torn. This deal went against his core political philosophy, but the opportunity was too good to pass up. For just $15 million, he could secure the vital port of New Orleans and expand America's horizons beyond imagination. In a stunning reversal of his own principles, Jefferson made the deal. He justified it as being in the nation's best interest, even if it meant stretching the Constitution to its breaking point. It was a shocking move for a strict constructionist, a decision that set a powerful precedent for presidential authority and transformed America into a continental power. Now for number 5, let's talk about James Madison and the War of 1812. Madison was a brilliant thinker, the father of the Constitution, but he was not a natural wartime leader. For years, Britain had been harassing American ships, impressing sailors, and generally disrespecting the young nation's sovereignty. The pressure to act was immense. The war hawks in Congress were clamoring for a fight. Madison, a man more comfortable with debate than with battle, made the shocking decision to ask Congress to declare war on the most powerful empire on the planet, Great Britain. It was an unbelievable risk. The U.S. was not prepared. The army was small, the navy was tiny, and the country was deeply divided over the war. The conflict itself was a brutal, chaotic affair. The British even marched on Washington and burned the White House to the ground. It seemed like a catastrophic mistake. But then, against all odds, America held on. The war ended in a stalemate, but it produced a surge of national pride and unity. It proved to the world, and to America itself, that the United States was a nation that could and would defend its independence. At number 4, we have James Monroe and his famous Monroe Doctrine. It's 1823. Latin American countries are breaking free from Spanish and Portuguese rule, but the old European powers are looking to reclaim their colonies. The United States, still a relatively young and militarily weak nation, had a choice: stay quiet or make a stand. Monroe, in his annual message to Congress, did something audacious. He declared the entire Western Hemisphere off limits to future European colonization. Essentially, he drew a line in the sand and told the great powers of Europe, "This is our backyard. Stay out." This was an incredibly bold, almost arrogant declaration. America didn't really have the naval power to back it up at the time. It was a bluff, but it worked. The Monroe Doctrine became a cornerstone of U.S. foreign policy for over a century, shaping the nation's role as a dominant power in the Americas and signaling its arrival on the world stage. Now we're getting to the heavy hitters. At number 3, we have Andrew Jackson, First the National Bank. Andrew Jackson was a populist, a man who saw himself as a champion of the common farmer against the rich Eastern elites. And in his eyes, nothing represented that corrupt elite more than the Second Bank of the United States. He saw it as a monstrous monopoly, an unconstitutional tool for the wealthy to get wealthier. So, when the bank's charter came up for renewal, Jackson didn't just refuse to sign it. He declared war. He vetoed the charter bill with a message that was a political firebomb, railing against the bank's power and privilege. Then, he went a step further, ordering the removal of all government funds from the national bank and depositing them into smaller, state-level pet banks. His opponents were horrified. They called him King Andrew, an aspiring tyrant trampling on the law. The move triggered a financial panic and a severe economic recession. But Jackson's gamble paid off politically. His supporters loved it. He had slain the monster bank, and his shocking decision fundamentally reshaped the American economy and the power of the presidency. Our runner-up at number 2 is George Washington's farewell address. But it's not the address itself that's shocking. It's the decision behind it. In 1796, Washington was a living legend. He had led the country to victory in the Revolution and had successfully guided it through its first 8 years. Many Americans assumed he would be president for life. They wanted him to be a king in all but name. But Washington did something truly revolutionary. Walked Hawaii. He voluntarily relinquished power, setting a precedent that would define American democracy for all time. In his farewell address, he didn't just say goodbye. He delivered a stark warning. He cautioned against the dangers of political factions and, most famously, urged the young nation to avoid entangling alliances with foreign powers. To a world ruled by monarchs and lifetime despots, the sight of the most powerful man in a nation willingly stepping down was utterly shocking. It was a lesson in civic virtue and a powerful statement that in America, power flowed from the people, not the person. And now, the number 1 most shocking decision by an early U.S. president. This one goes right to the heart of the American experiment. It's Abraham Lincoln and the Emancipation Proclamation. For the first year and a half of the Civil War, Lincoln's stated goal was clear: to preserve the Union. He repeatedly said the war was not about ending slavery. He was afraid of alienating the border states that still had slavery but remained in the Union. But as the war dragged on and the death toll mounted, Lincoln's thinking evolved. He realized that to win the war and truly save the nation, he had to destroy the institution that was tearing it apart. On January 1st, 1863, he issued the Emancipation Proclamation. This wasn't just a law. It was a moral thunderclap. It declared that all enslaved people in the rebellious Confederate States shall be thenceforward and forever free. It was a massive gamble. It didn't free everyone immediately, and it could have caused the border states to secede, but it fundamentally transformed the purpose of the war. From that moment on, the Union Army wasn't just fighting for unity, it was an army of liberation. This single decision redefined the meaning of freedom in America and set the nation on a new, albeit difficult, path toward fulfilling the promise of its founding ideals, from fiscal fights to foreign policy bluffs and moral revolutions. These decisions show that history is made by bold, risky, and often shocking choices. Which decision surprised you the most? Let us know down in the comments. Thanks for watching HistorYo. If you enjoyed this journey through America's past, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories that shaped our world. See you next time.